Oh, hi there. My name is Carrow Brown. I am an urban fantasy author, and I am here to give you a pep talk. We're moving into September, and right after that comes Preptober, and then after that comes NaNoWriMo. And I know that there are some individuals that are kind of diving into the Millwordy challenge at whatever level and capacity that they want to do. And I already foresee that there will be a little tiny bit of burnout. And if you're coming here and looking at the video, it may be because you're stuck because the title says pep talk and I'm stuck, right? I'm stuck in my story. I haven't figured out that title yet. I'll figure it out by the end of this video. But what we're going to do is that we're actually going to do a couple of exercises, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit. And what you're going to need for this is some kind of writing utensil and 2 pieces of paper. They can be a sticky note, can be a legal pad, it can be whatever you want it to be. But the reason I want to have you write along with me is because there is a correlation between writing and how your brain processes. And what we're going to be doing today is kind of triggering that little bit of your brain a little bit and also doing some reinforcement. So go ahead and pause the video and come back, and then we will start with this. So if you're here, it's because you're stuck in your story, right? You've reached this impasse, you don't know what to do, and you're just like, how do I fix this? Whatever, blah, 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 blah. So the first thing I want you to do on the first piece of paper is I want you to write being stuck is okay, because it is okay. Every writer gets stuck. It's a normal part of the process, but go ahead and take a moment, write it. I'm going to do it too, because I actually kind of need to give myself this pep talk a little bit as well. So getting stuck is okay. And you don't have to write this perfectly, by the way. There's no points for handwriting, nothing like that. Go ahead, see, getting stuck is okay. So, and if you need to put that in a planner or something, go ahead and do that too. Now, the one thing that's not okay with being stuck is when you put pressure on yourself because you are stuck. There is definitely a lot of research about how stress and pressure that we put onto ourselves does affect our cognitive way of thinking. So if you start telling yourself that I can't be stuck, I've got to do this, no, and you just do a lot of that negative self-talk, you're going to keep being stuck. So you need to kind of recognize what you're doing, and what we are going to do a little bit is what we're going to involve the second piece of paper. And the second piece of paper, we're going to do a thought map or a bubble map. Kind of the two of the same things. They give lots of names for the exact same thing. But if you know a different name for this, then feel free to leave that down below so I can expand my understanding of all the different names that this concept is called. But what we're going to do is in the middle of the paper, we're going to put stuck, because we're not going to avoid this. This is literally what we're here for the video. So you're going to put stuck in the middle of the paper. And I'm going to pause the video, but I would like you guys to take maybe like 3 to 5 minutes to kind of fill in why you're stuck. Now, I happen to also be stuck with this story. There is a novel that I was hoping to have out earlier this year, and it was called 10 of Brownies, and it's basically the book that comes after my first book, and I got about 60,000 words into it, and then I kind of dropped it. I got stuck, and I've been avoiding eye contact with it since I got stuck. So I'm also going to be using this, so don't feel like I'm kind of BSing you or anything like that. But go ahead, pause the video and fill out as much of this as you can, and I will come back with mine as well. I totally took longer than a couple of minutes to do this because I had to really think about it. So so I wanted to fill up the paper more, but this is like pretty much all that I could think of. And no, don't worry about spelling or anything like that. Remember, this is just a thing that you're doing for yourself. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to kind of either circle box or find some other way to kind of find like trends within what's going on here, because whenever you write something like this, there are going to be some commonalities. So I'm going to do that to identify what it is that's kind of hindering me from writing this story. This is not very beautiful. I'm not putting this up in a frame anytime soon. But what I did is that the things that I found were common, I went ahead and I did give them the shapes. So some of the things that I found that had a lot of correlation with each other, I put in circles and then boxes, and then I have like this little star thing, and then I also have like little squiggly lines because I didn't know what category they fell in. So those were completely different things. And one of the things that I'm seeing that is kind of holding me back is I'm asking a lot of questions about the writing, right? And maybe you're doing that too. I don't know. But I'm asking things like, is my POV okay? Will this be any good? Is this interesting? You know, I'm asking a lot of things that really I should not be considering right now when I'm doing the writing, because again, the draft actually isn't complete, right? I still have some places and some spots to fill in, but here I am asking myself these questions right now. And that doesn't really do you or me a lot of good to ask ourselves these questions when we haven't even finished writing the draft, right? In Stephen King's On Writing book, he says to write with the door closed and to edit with the door open, right? And that has to do with basically not caring about what other people are going to think until you've actually finished, you know, the writing. Again, it's kind of hard to edit a blank page, and that's kind of what I feel like for this particular story I'm doing. I am considering a lot of outside influences. I am considering a bunch of different things. I actually wrote Imposter Syndrome in here because some of the things that I am worried about is rejection and low rankings, or people who don't like this book as much as the first book. And that kind of hits me a little bit hard because this is one of the other things I wrote on here, and I'll show it to you, is I wrote that this is a passion project. And the reason I wrote it's a passion project is because this was something that I felt very strongly about. In book 1, there's a character called Snowflake, and some stuff happens. And this second book is actually more about her. It's kind of like a side novella, but I was very gripped by her recovery process, by the things that happened to her, and watching her grow and develop throughout the story. And I really wanted to take a deep dive into that, but I see that my writer-editor brain has kind of gotten in the way a lot, and that doesn't really, yeah, so the problem that I'm having about why I'm stuck, it seems to be mostly myself. Yeah. Now, there is one thing I wrote on here that I would also like to talk with you about, because this may affect you as well. And I've kind of talked about this in a few live streams, but I don't know if you stalk me on all the live streams that I co-host with. But one of the things that I wrote on here was actually outside pressure. Outside pressure. So if you or anything like me, the moment stress kind of appears into your life, your creativity takes a dive bomb, like it's just gone. Especially if the stress that's happening is kind of the thing that's tied into what you're doing, right? This is how burnout usually happens very frequently. It's that we're doing something, and then the thing that we're doing somehow causes us stress, and then because we can't get away from the thing that causes us stress, it results in us having low motivation, low energy, and low imagination. So I'm actually going to grab another sticky note because it's really important that we take some time. I know this is a pep talk. This is really more like, I don't know what to call this, but we're working on not being stuck, right? So we're working on identifying the things that make us stuck, and then we're going to make an action plan. Yeah, this is a pep talk action plan about being stuck. Okay, cool. That's going to be my title. But if you can find another piece of paper or another sticky note, go ahead and pull that out and just kind of write the stressors. Let's identify what it is that's kind of getting in the way of you being able to be creative and basically writing the story that you really want to write. So go ahead and pause the video. We'll take a couple minutes to write that all down, and then we'll narrow that as well. Okay, so what I did is on the sticky note, I wrote all the things probably within the last like 12 months. 12 months seems like a good thing because that's how long I've been trying to write this story, and that's how long I haven't finished it, right? So I went ahead and I wrote a list of what it was that was stressing me out in relation to whenever I was trying to work on this story. And I put little symbols next to them to kind of like categorize them just a little bit. So for example, I have a star next to the things that are kind of people related, right? So I had some publisher drama. That's nobody's surprised here because I've talked about it pretty openly. I had some publisher drama, and when it comes to the publisher drama, like it does kind of kill my motivation to write, because I'm usually in those situations I'm kind of left in limbo, and then I'm too far from the story to want to get back into it. And when I have opened it after those situations, I just haven't been. It's kind of like a sour taste, so I didn't want to do it. So so you know what? I think there's a little bit of resentment towards my story. So I'm going to put resentment because that seems like a thing. Resentment. That seems like a thing I need to consider. I did have some family members pass away. I had 4 family members pass away. And during COVID, there was like no way for me to go visit or even attend the funeral, so that kind of blows. I did have some friend drama, and I don't really want to dive too much into that, but I put 2 stars next to that because that hit me in a really hard place. I don't usually cry very often, but I know when this was happening, I did cry a little bit. Again, we're not getting into that, but that was definitely a big thing that kind of killed my creativity, my motivation at the time, and I got back on the wagon, but I'm still kind of like it's like the echoes are still in my mind, and I can't let it go. Now, those are all kind of like the people thing focused. Now, there are some other things that I've identified as kind of like self-pressure, and one of them is the Milwordy challenge, and I've kind of put that pressure on myself. And what I've done with that is, like, in order to write like 1,000,000 words in a year, you have to write 2,000, maybe 600 words, 2,600 words. And I decided to up it the remaining 400 words and just make it 3,000. And I can already tell you, after having done this for about 3 weeks, I can always feel like it's like, oh, I still gotta go write my 3,000 words. And before, when I used to only have to write 2,000 words, it wasn't like a big deal. But adding that extra 1,000 has definitely put something on there. And the other self-pressure that I've kind of noticed is my passion versus requirement. So making videos that I want to make, like this one, versus making videos that I think people want, right? So doing what I want to do versus not doing what people want me to do, but doing what I want versus what I think people want, if that makes any sense. So that's a lot of self-pressure, and then college is on there too, but college is going to be done in like 4 weeks. So a lot of my stress, kind of a mixed bag there, right? Now, go ahead and take a moment to kind of do something similar. Star the things that might be people focused, circle the things that might be, maybe self-imposed stress, and, or whatever kind of little symbols that you want to do. And take a moment and like look at that and kind of really process what's kind of like hitting you, right? And hopefully at this point you are back after having paused the video, but if you haven't, go ahead and pause and then come back, because we're going to continue with this little strategy that I have going on. So 3, 2, 1. So on the sticky note where we wrote getting stuck is okay, I would like you to write stress is part of life. So stress is part of life, because if I didn't have these things going on that I wrote down, I'd have something else that was stressing me out. And there's eustress and there's de-stress. Eustress is actually good stress for you. It's kind of what keeps you like wanting to survive, and de-stress are things that usually kind of make you want to hide under a rock, right? That's just how that goes. But stress is part of life, but how we deal with it in relation is something that we can actually control. So I always tell people that you can't control what people say to you, but you can control how you respond to it, right? So you can't control these outside things that are stressing you out, but you can take a moment to decide how you are going to respond to it. So we kind of have to tie this back into what we're doing with our writing, because obviously what we're trying to do is get unstuck, right? And we already kind of identified what it is that is stressing us out, and what it is that's kind of stopping us from writing. So what do we do now, right? What's the game plan? At this point, this exercise is actually going to involve you getting another piece of paper. We're going through a lot of paper today. But on this piece of paper, I would like you to take a moment to write all the things that you actually love about your story. Not any of the negative stuff, not any of the stuff that's bogging you down. Write what you really love about this story. And this is the piece of paper that you are going to keep, because when you are struggling later on, you're going to have to look at this and remind yourself. And if you actually get any kind of positive feedback from maybe an alpha reader who read a rough draft, you may want to go ahead and include that too, because you're going to need that later on down the road when you get stuck again. So let's go ahead. Feel free to pause. I'm going to write my own list, and then we'll reconvene in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so my list isn't very long, and I actually don't have a lot of alpha feedback to include on this, because I've only shared it with maybe like a couple of people, not very many, but it's not done yet, and so I don't have any of that to put on here, but when I do, I'm going to add it. So my list is pretty short. These are all the things that I was really excited about my story. I was really excited about Snowdrop's journey and her development. I've got these creatures in my book called Murder Chickens, and I absolutely love writing them, and they're in there a lot, and I want to put more of them in there. And then I'm kind of a nerd about culture, and so I had like these two factions. I had the brownies, which are like the little people in mythology, versus like the fairies and how their cultures are kind of going back and forth with each other. And then I also have two interesting POVs. One POV is from a forest point of view, and the other one is actually from a house. So those were two POVs that I was actually having a lot of fun with, and I want to go back and like thinking about it kind of gets my brain working a little bit, because I want to go back and continue to explore that. And then there was another character who I don't want to like say, because I don't want to give any spoilers, but he has a very interesting journey as well. And then there's also like kind of like some breadcrumbs that I'm sprinkling in there for what actually happens in like book 4 or 5. So those are all things that I'm really excited about. And writing them, kind of like making myself write them kind of reminds me about why I was excited about them. But, you know, take a look at your list and kind of like assess that and see what it is that you loved about your story. And if you want to share that down below, please do, because sharing things that we love does help reinforce them. And some people also really like ideas too. Like if you're writing a story about a disabled person learning to wield magic or go off and fight a dragon on their own, and that's something that got you like really hyped, man, throw that down there. Let's see it. We went ahead and we kind of identified the things that are making us stuck, both with our attitude towards the story and maybe some outside influences that are going on. We took some time to actually write down what we really like, and I'm going to put that probably over here at some point. We wrote down what we really liked about the story and what it was that made us really excited about it, and now we're at the point where what do we do at this point? Like what's the game plan? I'm glad that you asked, because the game plan is making a daily goal, like a tiny little daily goal, and that is writing 100 words of your story a day. Just 100. And that may not seem like a lot, but 100 words a day is still progress. If you wrote 100 words a day for 365 days a year, you would have 36,500 words, right? That adds up. And if you happen to write over that, then that's a bonus, right? So we'll go ahead and together we will write 100 words a day on our stories until they're complete, right? That seems like a very feasible goal. At least I do. Now for some of you who are like, Carrow, I have a deadline. How does this work for me? I don't know what your deadline is. I don't know if your deadline is from a publisher. I don't know if your deadline is self-imposed. If it is self-imposed, go ahead and cross that off, like right now, because while some people may be very motivated by a deadline, but I have to say that if you are not a person, like you're going to know if you're motivated by a deadline or not, okay? You're just going to know. And if you're not motivated by a deadline, take it off. Let it go. You let it go, let it go. Let that deadline go. You don't need it. And just focus on making your story. Now, if you are a person that's, you know, big on a deadline and 100 words is going to have you under count for that, you may have to go ahead and adjust that. But again, when you make this goal, make it really realistic for you. Make it so that it's something that you can definitely achieve within the time frame, okay? So if you're a person who can usually write, like, I don't know, like 2,000 words a day, go ahead and cut it down to 1,000, all right? If it still lets you meet your goal, just cut it down and just give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, and you will find that when you reduce that self-imposed pressure off of yourself, you will be a lot more creative. Put all the paper away. Putting all the paper away. We're done with that. And I'm going to go ahead and give you some honest advice about what you can do if you are really stuck and these things aren't working for you, and it is take some time off. This idea didn't actually come from me. I got it from Lisa on her channel. We were talking about it, and she said she took 3 days off, just 3. She took 3 days off from working, and from those 3 days she was able to write again, right? So take some time off, let your brain recover. I took 2 weeks off. I took 2 weeks off at one point, and I literally came out of that 2 weeks with not only a book idea, but a lot of passion for it. And within the following 3 weeks, I wrote like 80,000 words for it. All right. So take some time off, let your brain recover. Go find things that you enjoy doing. Do you like to read? Are you a crafter? Do you sew? Do you play an instrument? Go do those things. Go do those things. Have fun, and let your writing brain go ahead and relax and just take a little tiny mini vacation, and you will find subtly, a little bit, day by day, more of those ideas are just going to start blossoming in your head, and you're going to just get really excited about your writing. Now, the very last thing, well, not the last thing, I'll probably come up with like a couple more while we're doing this video, but another thing that you can do when you are stuck is go talk to a friend. If you've got a writing friend or you've got an avid reader friend, say, hey, I'm struggling with this story a little bit and I just need a sounding board or somebody to bounce ideas off with. And that person, you know, go talk to them. Listen to what they have to say. Maybe they'll provide you with a suggestion, right? Or maybe they'll also be equally excited, like, oh man, I love that idea, and da 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 da. And just make sure that this person that you are talking to is in your corner. And you also know that they're not going to blow smoke up your butt, okay? So, like, you can't, like, go to somebody who's going to be like, yeah, man, you're awesome at everything you do. You do need somebody who is going to be a little critical about your work, but is also not going to sit there and take, like, a hammer to your face. So, if you've got a friend like that, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm stuck on this a little bit, and I thought maybe you and I could talk about it. And I'm saying that because there's a lot of different ways to process our thoughts. Some of it's by writing, some of it is actually by verbal, right? So some people do really well by verbally processing things, and that might help you. And if you haven't tried it before, give it a shot, see what happens. We're kind of like at the end of the video, and I definitely had a few more things that I wanted to mention, but I think we're doing pretty well today. And the last thing that I would like you to do is on the sticky note where we wrote, getting stuck is okay, and stress is part of life, I want you to write, I can do it. So, I can do it. And sometimes you may have to write that a couple of times, just to help that sink in a little bit. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in my planner. That's honestly what I'm going to do. So again, the sticky note that we've made together, or whatever piece of paper that we decide to use, is going to say, getting stuck is okay, stress is part of life, and I can do it, right? And anytime that you get stuck, feel free to go take a look at that sticky note and just kind of give yourself that subtle reminder. Remember, you love this story, right? You absolutely love this story. You want to write it, you want to share it, and you want people to enjoy it with you. And it won't get done until you finish writing, and you can't write it if you're stuck. So, small steps, good self-talk as well. And again, if you get stuck again, feel free to come back and maybe do another self-analyze about what's going on and what's getting in the way. Remember that you are not alone. There are lots of people who do get stuck in their stories. We have all gone through it, and if you need to talk to somebody about it, you know what? My door's open. You can DM me either on Instagram, you can DM me on Facebook, you can do any of that. I may not respond within 10 seconds, but you can always reach out to me too. And if you are somebody who's watching this video and you are willing to be reached out as well, if you think that somebody needs a support network for this, you know what, you can leave that comment down below too. One of the things I really love about Authortube is that we're very connected, right? We're very connected, we're very supportive, and that's really good because we all understand what it's like to be stuck, have stubborn characters, and fuss over sentence syntax, right? So let's go ahead and build that network. Let's make sure that we are surrounding ourselves with good people and that we have just some good resources, you know? Anyway, that is me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's not my usual forte, but I thought that, again, we got Millwordy, we've got September, we've got Preptober, and then we got November, and I thought this would be a good time to land the video now for later because I know it's gonna happen and I don't want y'all to feel like you're alone. So I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave any feedback if you would like another one of these about a different topic, because I would be happy to do that too. But I'm gonna go ahead and end. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out and maybe working on this stuff with me, and I will talk to y'all again real soon. Bye.